All right, Halloween is right around the corner, Escape Crew. And today we're diving into the dark side of wrestling. The lights go out, the music hits, and you just know something terrifying is coming down that ramp. On this special edition of Pro Wrestling Escape, I'm going to be counting down my top 5 scariest wrestlers of all time. And hey, quick reminder, if you're enjoying the show, hit follow on Spotify or Apple Podcasts right now. That way, every Thursday, the latest episode drops right into your feed. And before we dive in, I just want to say a thank you to everyone who's been tuning in every week. You know, whether it's 30, 40, 50, 100 of you, the episodes, ebb and flow. It just means the world that you're choosing to spend time with me talking wrestling. You're the reason I keep it rolling. So big shout out to you guys, the Escape Crew. And since it's Halloween week, let's hit this week in WWE history. All right, so maybe Halloween is 2 weeks away, but October 1992, Halloween Havoc hosted its first Spin the Wheel, Make the Deal match. Sting versus Jake the Snake Roberts in a coal miner's glove match. Maybe not the scariest stipulation you can think of, but it definitely gave Halloween Havoc its signature spooky vibe. And it became tradition after that. So go back, just kind of look at the visuals of that match. Maybe I'll put some on the screen here so you can kind of see it, a snapshot of what it looked like. But it's always good to go back and to watch, older matches for what they are. Obviously, for something that's well over 30 years ago, you have to keep that in mind watching it. You can't compare it to today. All right, now it's time for the main event. Let's step into the shadows with our main event of the top 5 scariest wrestlers of all time. Starting at number 5 for me is Papa Shango. And when I think back to being a kid in the early 90s, early 90s, there's really just one gimmick that truly kept me up at night and really creeped me out. And that was Papa Shango. We all know him. Some of us know him more from being the Godfather, but back then, around 92, he was introduced as the voodoo priest, Papa Shango. The big moment I think everybody remembers that watched during that time frame was the Ultimate Warrior was covered in black goo dripping down his face, just screaming in agony and pain. Warrior even went on to collapse backstage and then vomited as a part of the storyline. Now, one of my cringe moments of the week recently was that exact moment where the vomit did happen. Instagram didn't like it. It kind of got flagged, whatever. It was worth it. I think if you follow me, you can still go look at it. But as a kid, you just didn't know if it was real. You just knew this guy with skull paint had cursed a lot of people's hero at the time in Ultimate Warrior. But Papa Shango's run was short, but for that moment in time, and depending on how old you were, just pure nightmare vibes. And that's why he kicks it off the list at number 5 for me. Number 4, we have the original Mankind. This was Mick Foley at his most disturbing. The brown leather mask, the squeals, and just the blood-curdling screams of him. And then here he is, and sitting anywhere, just rocking in the corner and just, wow. Like for a moment, like, is this guy okay in the head? Because he's playing this a little too well. I mean, at some points he pulled out his own hair, and just the eerie piano theme song, not the one we all know with the car crash going into a nice vibe. This piano theme, if you haven't heard it, please go back and listen to it anywhere. I mean, I think at certain points he starts like talking in the theme song and screaming, and you can hear that blood curdling scream. Hey, play it on Halloween night. It'll definitely do the Halloween vibe for you. And, his mandible claw, I mean, it's Mankind physically shoving his hand down opponents' throats. It was just terrifying. And we all can remember the 1996 SummerSlam Boiler Room Brawl. Whether you have seen it or you haven't, go back and watch it. I watched it again recently, last week actually, and it's still one of my favorite matches of all time. It was obviously Mankind against Undertaker in 96, and it just felt like a horror movie in real time. Mankind was again, scary because he just felt real. There's no magic to him, no fireballs, just an absolutely broken, dangerous man who didn't care if he hurt himself or you. And that's what makes him unforgettable. Again, this is the old Mankind, not the one that we grew to love. Number 3 on my list is probably my favorite wrestler of all time, and that's Kane. His debut, 97 Bad Blood at the Hell in a Cell match between Shawn Michaels and Undertaker. It's still super, super iconic and will always be a core memory that I can always play back in my head, like right now if I want to. That's how vivid it was for me. You know, the lights go red and dark, Paul Bearer screams, and just this monster comes down the ramp and just rips the door off the cell like it was nothing. And he was huge, massive. He made Undertaker look kind of small. And Kane really felt like Michael Myers in wrestling form. He had the fire pyro, his Inferno matches, and then the Byrne Brothers storyline that made him unstoppable. And when he unmasked in 2003, I think it was, that deranged scar look could have even been scarier than the mask. He was terrifying, Kane, but you just couldn't look away. And he absolutely owned it. And his theme song slaps. Number 2 is the late, great Bray Wyatt as The Fiend. From 2019 on, he really redefined horror in wrestling. He had the lantern of his own head. That was like a Hollywood-esque, like movie quality, like just legit kind of scary. You had the red lights and the distorted theme song. And again, going back to his debut with Finn Balor at SummerSlam in 2019, I think some of us didn't know whether to cheer or sit in stunned silence. Like, for me, I always liked the unpredictable and the unforgettable, and that's exactly what that was. I was legit chilling, and he had his laugh, and it was short-lived, unfortunately, but the aura that he created in just a few years was, I think, unmatched in modern WWE. He really did feel like a straight-up villain from a horror movie. All right, before we get to my number 1, I got to throw in at least one honorable mention. And this honorable mention could be in a lot of yours top 5. Honorable mention, the Boogeyman. Debuting in WWE in about 2000, and just this guy was just insanely creepy vibes, creepy look with the painted face, and smashing the clock over his own head, and of course the worms. He'd literally eat worms live on TV, sometimes spitting them into opponents' faces that could sometimes get into their mouth. I don't know, pretty disgusting. Some people maybe kind of thought it was cheesy, cringy. Sure, but if you were a little bit younger, watching SmackDown back in 2005, he was probably terrifying. So the Boogeyman may not crack my official top 5, but he definitely deserves a shout out for some of the most unsettling visuals WWE has ever put on television. All right, number 1. I think almost all of you can guess it because it's a wrestler that should be in everybody's top 5 scariest of all time, and I have him at number 1 because I believe it was a trendsetter, and that is the Undertaker, the scariest wrestler of all time. From his debut at Survivor Series in 1990, you had kids in the crowd crying. Like, seriously, go back and watch. He looked like a walking corpse. And over the years, he just kept raising the bar of his creepiness and his scariness. You had the casket matches. You had the buried alive matches. At one point, locked in Ultimate Warrior in a coffin until Ultimate Warrior passed out. And then the next one, which was kind of unsettling, especially if you go back and watch it now in the Attitude Era, that was the Ministry of Darkness era. This is when he crucified Stone Cold Steve Austin on a symbol. This is also when he hung Big Boss Man. I'm not trying to laugh, but he hung Big Boss Man from a cage wearing like a noose. It was, and they raised the cage, and it was, you're like, okay, this is really unsettling to watch and kind of scary. It was just horror theater on live TV at that point. And then even into his later years, the gong would hit and the arena just, well, the arena went silent back then, but now every time the gong hits, we get what, once or twice a year, maybe, we all erupt, right? It's just goosebumps every time. And Undertaker wasn't just scary. He, like I said, he set the standard. Everyone else is compared to him. And that's why he's the number one scariest wrestler of all time in my book. And now it's time for one of my favorite parts of the show, and that is the crowd speaks. This is where I hand over the so-called mic, like Paul Heyman, to Roman, and to hear what you have to say, and the Escape Crew. And I definitely took a lot of notes on this one. I'm going to shout out a bunch of you because I got incredible feedback on this one. So let's check out some of your answers. All right, first one, and I'll be reading off the screen, is at Matt's Order 66. He kept it simple but powerful. Vader. And, and thinking about that answer, Vader's presence alone could terrify a crowd. And also, too, if you're in the ring with him and he has a few receipts, you're definitely going to be scared. So that's a great one there. Next, we have at Montgomery.macho. He had a lot to say. This is great. First, he shouted out Mankind, reminding us that when he debuted crawling out of the boiler room, he was eerie, psychotic, and completely unpredictable. Montgomery Macho also went on to give props to Undertaker, Kane, Boogeyman, and Bray Wyatt, but said for him, number one will always be Mankind. Well, I love that list personally. That matches up with mine, and I can't argue number one with Mankind because really all of my top five, you could make a case, and I'd be okay with it. Next up, we have at Q_the_game. He throws a deep cut from Lucha Underground. Matanza Quieto. I probably butchered that, but that was also Jeff Cobb that we all know. And that's one you don't hear often. And I remember hearing that name a few years ago, but right before here, I wanted to get a visual of what he looked like because I kind of forgot. And whoa, just pure horror. Again, out of a horror movie, scary movie, kind of Texas Chainsaw vibes, meets Jason. Like I would go back and I'm going to go back and watch some of those matches because, well, Cobb or whatever his real name is a fantastic wrestler. And to see him in this character, I think I'm going to go down and look. That's an awesome call out. Next up, we have at Elias_Bailey04. He would go on to say Umaga and Brock Lesnar. All right. He said when their music hit, people's faces were just covered in fear. And you know what? That's right. This intimidation factor was real for both of them. There's like this, I don't know if I think it's kind of catching on to social media, but it's a point of view. Somebody is, holding like a fake title. And I think the text basically says, when this person's music hits and it's your first title defense, and then you hear the song, to see the person. So like I've seen Brock Lesnar, I've seen Mark Henry, and I've actually seen Umaga as well. So that's reading Elias's feedback. That's exactly what I thought of. But yeah, Umaga and Brock Lesnar. Yeah, and some of these people, you hear their music, you're like, oh shit, like this is scary. So that's a good one. Next, we have at That's Just Chris _. He went with the classic duo, early Kane and Undertaker. No arguments there for me. The Brothers of Destruction clearly defined scary entrances, and obviously they would put on some pretty dark matches, whether they were together or opponents. I personally liked when they were opponents because they put on some banger matches. Next up, we have Rocky_Skelton. He would go on to say Papa Shango. And of course, you guys know I love that one since he was just on my list. And Rocky would also go on to say that the gimmick freaked him out as a kid. There we go. And let's be honest, those curses and black goo got to a lot of us back then. Hell yeah. I don't know. Going back, watching it again, it's still kind of scary. Maybe because in my mind, I'm going back to when I was, 4 or 5 years old watching this. Yeah, I had a good childhood. What can I say? My dad let me watch professional wrestling. Here I am. As normal as I can be. Next up, we had at Jesse Uribe, 2000. He kept it simple. Undertaker. That's all he put. And sometimes you don't need to explain it. And in this case, Jesse definitely does not. So I like it. Man, a few words. Perfect. Next up, we have at Doomsday_2019. Doubled down on that, and he got specific. He said Ministry of Darkness Undertaker in 1999. Called him a satanic cult leader, which is exactly why that run still gives people chills. Yeah, like what I was just said earlier. I mean, like I said, a lot of us are going to have the same wrestlers, and specifically with Undertaker, that era, Ministry of Darkness, and then they did a thing with Stephanie McMahon too. It was kind of to qualify for my cringe moment of the week, but also kind of scary because it kind of could have been felt real. Like, no, I don't know, but yeah, that's a good call out there. Next up, we have at tribal_chief_756. He said The Fiend because the Firefly Funhouse mind games, absolutely, and the whole character he built himself. Bray Wyatt definitely left his mark in the horror side of wrestling. Yes, and when you say mind games, I just think of the match with John Cena and all the different parts of that match. And I'm pretty sure Bray Wyatt put that match all together. I think I read that recently where John Cena said Bray Wyatt was the mastermind behind that match. Next up, we have at the WWE Wrestle. He said he could not decide between Kane or Undertaker. Said Kane's debut was terrifying, but Undertaker's storylines make him the scariest overall. Yes, yes, yes. See a few more. We have at Malk Gooley. He went old school with classic Undertaker with the purple gloves. Ooh, I love that. I actually have this. I think it's what's it called? Well, it's Jack's Pacific. It's the WWE Superstars Series 1. Well, WWF back then. And I think so. The Series 1 or Series 2. You guys can let me know in the comments. But I have that actual action figure still in the package with the purple. Love it. It's such a specific answer, and that's why I love Malk Gooley's answer. It just brings you right back to that early 90s creepy vibe, and me wanted to go look at my action figure real quick. All right, next up we have at 11_Amon. He also said The Fiend, and you can tell a lot of people felt that fear from Bray Wyatt's work. Yep. And we got one more, and we have at Muggles_T. He summed it up perfectly. Undertaker was literally being buried alive and then coming back from the dead. Walking Dead stuff, and nobody did it better. So there you have it. The Escape crew has spoken very well, from Darth Vader to The Fiend, Papa Shango to Undertaker's Ministry of Darkness. These are the wrestlers that truly scared fans the most. And you guys are spot on. And that's the top scariest wrestlers of all time episode. But before you go, please, I've got one more quick favor. If you are enjoying the Pro Wrestling Escape podcast, again, hit the follow button, drop a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Now, reviews actually help podcasts more than you think. It's not just doing the 5-star or a follow. It may feel small to you, but reviews actually tell the platforms, Spotify, Apple, hey, this show is worth showing to more wrestling fans. So somebody took the time out of the day to drop a line on if they like the podcast or not. That means we can build this community, get more fan takes and crowd speaks, and of course dive even deeper into the wrestling moments that we all love and hate. Plus, selfishly, it fires me up just to know that you're out there listening and having a blast each week with me. All right, this has been your Halloween edition of Pro Wrestling Escape. Stay safe out there. Just remember, in wrestling, the scariest moments live forever.